to you again from the Blue Mountains. So today is volume 6 of Meet the Therapist, and I can't believe I've done 6 already. And today I've got Kelly Mercieca with me, and I'll get her to introduce herself. And we've been kind of trying to plan this for about 3 months, I realised, Kelly. I looked at the first contact we had, and it was end of July. So it's August, September, yeah, about 2 and a bit months. So anyway, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us what you do, maybe where you're located, and maybe any training that you have?
Okay. Well, hi, Jana. Thank you for arranging today. And it has been a while in waiting, so it's good to be talking to you and being able to do it. So hi, everyone. My name's Kelly, and I am an animal communicator and healer. And my role is involved in helping families when they have a pet that may have emotional issues, also passed over animals and animals in transition where they not necessarily mature age or elderly, but where they may have a condition, and clients will contact me to help them through that process and give them the animal's perspective, and it helps them make difficult decisions. And I can also help with physical. I do not replace a vet, so that's really important that animal communicators do not replace vet. We work in conjunction with them. And I am located in the eastern suburbs, but I do service all of Australia, and I also have overseas clients because I'm able to do by email and Skype and telephone. So, and I do home visits as well, if that's what people would like, and also helping with behavioural issues.
Yeah, cool. That sounds really fascinating. Yeah,
it does. And my training, sorry, you asked about that. It's very interesting. So I've studied with several different teachers. I've also studied spiritually myself for about 15 years. And I always feel that's an important part of me to be able to offer healing to other people. I have to have discovered myself and done a lot of self-healing, which is a lifelong thing anyway. And I have a diploma in animal communication and healing. And I'm a Reiki master. And I have studied psychic and spiritual development as well. So I am a psychic medium, and I do work with humans as well, but I primarily concentrate on the animals, but I can help both, which is great.
Yeah, cool. That sounds really fascinating. I can't wait to get into it today. So where did it start for you? Like, what's your backstory? Have you always known you could do it? And also, why did you end up sort of focusing on animals?
To be honest, I didn't know I could always do it. I have always been very sensitive or highly sensitive. And I guess growing up, it wasn't something that was discussed, so I wasn't really aware of that ability. But I just knew I was a little different in a good way. And to be honest, everyone is psychic anyway. It's just whether we develop those skills. Yeah, and being a medium, yes, I was born a medium. I just wasn't aware of that until later when I developed it. And the reason I wanted to do animals was because I had experienced using an animal communicator myself, and I could see the benefits and how much it helped me in difficult situations with, an animal that was sick, and even behavioural issues, or even just wanting to know why an animal does a certain behaviour, because we have a perception of why they do it, but to hear the animal's perception, because often it is different to what we think, which is why we cannot solve certain issues sometimes. So it's just interesting, plus it can be very healing, and I've used it in both contexts. So I wanted to be able to offer that to other people. So that's why I studied to become one.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how do you communicate? Is it visual for you, or is it audient, or?
I use all of my senses.
Can I just say your kid is in the background moving that plant, so if anyone's watching, oh, there's his head now. Okay. Yeah, funny. The plant was moving, but you couldn't see the kitty. So I'm like, don't freak out, people.
Yeah, yeah, the plant's not moving on its own. Oh my gosh. He likes playing behind there. Sorry, what did you ask me now? I got distracted.
How do you communicate? Is it visual or audient or sentient?
Okay, I use all of my senses with my animal communication. Predominantly visual for me. That's one of my biggest senses, but animals use all their senses, or not all at once, but an animal will use it. It will obviously, like human, we have more use of one. So, but I use all of my senses when I communicate with them to make sure I get as accurate information as I can and across the board, so I can feel, I hear, and I see. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm interested to know what sort of message. So let's begin with when a pet crosses over, when someone loses a pet. What sort of messages do you get? So, like, how long is it before you can actually contact them and communicate with them? Because I know sometimes with humans there is a period of time where it sort of should be left alone. So how quickly, and then what sort of messages do you get?
It's very interesting, and I know that can be a bit of a controversial. Everyone has a different opinion, I guess, on when people can be contacted, or animals. And from my personal experience, what I will do is I will ask the person when the animal passed. So I'll kind of assess their emotional state, and I will discuss that with them. So that's the biggest thing, because the whole idea behind animal communication with passed over animals, or the main thing for me, is giving that client healing and peace and comfort, not to make it worse. So I have actually communicated a day after, or within a few days of an animal passing over, and that lady was okay with me being able to do the communication. But generally it would probably be a few weeks, because I find that would be when most people have worked through the worst part of their grief, but each person is individual. So I don't have a set time. I assess each person. Yeah, because everyone's different.
Yeah, okay.
But there's no real set time frame.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, cool. And what sort of messages would you get for a pet that's passed, that's had a, loving home and, had a great life?
Well, most of them, they're very different, and depending on the situation, but then most of them, one of the most answers that will come from generally all animals is they don't want their owner to feel guilty, because that's a big thing, and a lot of owners will feel guilty. So it's about, and that the animal's not in any pain, and they're not angry at their owner for the decision that was made. They're some of the biggest.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially like if there was the decision or the need to put a pet down, in that sort of circumstance. So that's really nice to hear.
Yeah, it's very important. And I think sometimes we maybe even underestimate how healing that is for people, and the difference that you can make. And it's always I'm very empathetic, and I've lost animals myself. I've had all the same situations that I help my clients with, which is why I think I'm very good at it, but also I am also empathetic. So to be able to help people through their healing, that's amazing. Yeah.
And can you go, have you ever had anyone have like a childhood pet come through?
I've had different circumstances, so there's really not a time frame, even, because people have asked me, because animals, even if they come back, I can still, and I haven't experienced that personally yet, but animals can come back. So I was thinking of the longest person that I've communicated with, or animal that I've communicated with somebody, it'll probably be maybe 10 years for me. I've had inquiries for other people for a different length of time, but yeah, and sometimes when an animal has passed, it will mention that it's with another animal that was from their childhood, like that the people knew.
Okay.
From, so that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, because I've seen on, I haven't experienced myself either, as you know, I'm a past life regressionist, but
Yes.
So I'm on a sort of a support group with other practitioners and in, you know, various groups, and people have said that, like I've read several times where a pet from a childhood has come back to be a pet again for the adult later in life.
Yes, and that can happen. I myself have not communicated with any that have done that, but they have been in past lives. I've communicated with many animals that have been in past lives as human and animal, but I haven't communicated with any that, just trying to think, maybe one where they had, but generally they haven't always been coming back in this life, just other lives, many other lives.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because we'll get into the whole reincarnation and having sort of different lives, but there was something I wanted to ask. Oh, it's gone now. Anyway.
Well, I know maybe, I'm not sure, like if you were going to ask this, because this has just come up to me too, like if they were to come back, there may be something that wasn't fulfilled in their life. I don't know if that's where you maybe were going with, like what they were to learn with that person. So generally, maybe if they haven't learnt, because the animal is learning plus the human is learning, so there's both aspects and they're both teaching each other. So if that hasn't been fulfilled, there may be, in this lifetime, then there may be a reason for them to come back again,
Okay.
adult. Or if that's that real yearning, because I do have a client who, quite a few, and that's who the clients that usually come to me, who have they love all animals and all the animals they've had, but some of them tend to have just a really intense relationship with a certain animal, and that's when you know there's a lot of deep past lives and deep healing. Yeah, and they're the really devastating ones to have to say goodbye to those animals.
Yeah, because I know that, like, I mean, I haven't done a lot of work with humans. I have regressed people that went to when they were an animal, never a pet. I've never actually had someone that has been a pet, but like every person, every life has a purpose and every life has a lesson. So it is interesting that pets do as well, and that they have sort of a purpose and a lesson with or for the human.
Yes.
So what sort of purposes could they have, or what sort of lessons or whatever can come through?
So for the animal to teach the human?
Yeah.
Yep. Unconditional love. A lot of them are here to help on a spiritual path, to support people through their own learning, and guide them. Like, even with, and that's a lot with passed over animals. A lot of them will pass over, and it doesn't mean it's in concrete, but this is just my experience and what I've seen. Yeah, they that will trigger a spiritual awakening, in a sense, to the owner. But while they're living, unconditional love. There's also ones where animals may get a certain disease, and that will then, and they pick people that will find solutions. And so it's kind of like teaching everybody other holistic answers or reasons on how to treat diseases, because some owners, which is very good, will go to the ends of the earth to find things, which I would do too. And so, like, determination and, there's just so many things that even as what humans are learning is the same really for an animal soul. They will be learning similar things.
Yeah. And so with my technique that I do, we find why an illness or a pain or a health issue has manifested based on something that's happened with the thought process. Is this if a pet or an animal gets something, is this what you find as well? Do you find that there is a reason that it manifested to the cat, maybe from a past life? Because often answers for my clients are in a past life that they've then carried through, and they're still carrying that emotional baggage. Is that something you have found?
I haven't. I mean, I do go in. I probably don't go into past lives although I definitely have studied some of that. You know, I've done like a workshop, and I'm very open to past lives, obviously, but I haven't really, with my animal communication, sort of brought it in that context as much. But I definitely, animals can mirror a disease in this life and actually even take it off their owner. So animals are amazing. Like, they will actually take it, and so their owner doesn't have it. There are many scenarios, or they will have it as well as their owner, and a lot of the time that is so their owner, because sometimes we don't look at ourselves enough, and so with the animal, when it's the animal, they will question it, and then it will make them look at themselves and change their lifestyle. So that's pretty interesting as well. And yeah, but with past lives, I mean, I have had a case where there was a white dove with a lady in this life, and she was her child in a previous life. And yeah, that's really makes me even emotional. It's so beautiful. So that wasn't really as an illness or anything, but that was very impactful on her and her spiritual path. So no, I haven't really delved into that, although I do believe it. I know everything is connected to emotion, which is why even with animals, offering the healing and doing that and working through it can help the animal with a condition. Yeah. And then helps the owner as well.
So how long can a pet stay or hang around with a family or a person after they've passed? Do you find they stay a long time, or do they go on to do whatever they've got to do?
Okay, so initially when they pass, and it's like with a human, their soul will stay for a little while before they actually cross over. So that generally might be 2 to 3 days, but that's when it's very heavy. The grief is very heavy. And I actually have had an experience with a cat who did not cross over, because I do cross some animals over, because some don't cross over on their own. And I had an experience with a cat this year that took up quite a while, and it was like the client didn't contact me till probably a month later, but the cat had not crossed over. So that's not what we want. We don't want them doing that, and no one can heal. So I assisted the cat, and it did take, it wasn't just, we had to kind of really encourage the cat to cross over. But generally it'll be 2 to 3 days, I find, and then they will cross over through the light, and then they obviously come back, but it's the grief is not as heavy, and the animal has had their healing on the other side, and that I don't feel is any time frame. They do have other jobs on the other side. Some animals are very advanced souls. I mean, all animals are of a higher vibration on a soul level than people, but when they cross over, they also have roles. And some have very interesting ones. So if they're very busy doing that, they will still visit their owners. I don't find that any don't over a longer period of time, maybe after 10 years. But I haven't really experienced that where they don't still stay connected in some form to their owner. Once there's a connection made, they will always be connected. So
And
Yeah.
if there's been, say, a trauma, like say there's been an accident or something's happened to the pet and they've died, or even throughout their life, can that come through as anything?
Like when they've crossed over, you mean? And
Yeah, when they've gone through something traumatic, like maybe say a dog got attacked by another dog, or yeah, if they've gone through trauma.
yeah, and so would you mean like with past lives, you do a lot of healing with that, so that they would carry that trauma with them into like once they've crossed over, you mean?
Yeah, well, do they, like, if the pet has had some sort of trauma, have you had any cases where then you've discussed it with them, what it was like or how to move through it or anything?
Um, Once they've crossed over, I generally find, except for that one cat, which doesn't happen a lot, because she didn't want to leave her owner and all that. Usually once they've crossed over, some will stay in like, depending if they were really sick, I also find if they've been sick, they will stay in a longer period. Well, I've had one tell me that it stayed like in a healing room, and I can't remember all the description because there's so many now, but it was in a healing room for quite a length of time. But with experiences, I have found most of the time when they've crossed over, they're generally okay. It's more for the owner, I really feel. Like other than if an animal has to be crossed, passed over animals, I really feel those sessions are more for the owner. Yeah, and information from the animal to the owner to give the animal to give the owner peace. So I haven't really come across that, carrying trauma in a living animal connecting to a past life. Yes, I've had some where they have, and I wouldn't remember specifically, but I have had where they're living and they would bring trauma from a past life. Not really when they're passed. They kind of, yeah, don't really
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I didn't know
What
if
about,
it had been mentioned, like, oh, that was really horrible or something.
look, and they might, but I think once they kind of cross, they just, there's always like a sense of peace and calmness and they may not have liked an experience, but then from that angle, they don't look at it like we do as a human, or if they were in their physical body in an animal here, then they would have trauma. That would be more likely where I would do healing, but generally once they've passed, they don't really bring that up. No. And they're focusing on what they've got to do now. Like, yeah, splitting their time. They're generally always splitting their time between, visiting their owners, because that's something owners always want to know. Do they still visit me? And then off doing different things, like some are off, teaching people or greeting other animals, like waiting for other animals. They all have jobs. I find they all have jobs.
Yeah, that's something, like, everyone has a job once we leave here. It's not just, sit around and drink teas.
No, that's right. There's a lot to be done. And, I've had some where an animal, I did a session and the lady had lost her brother and her dog. Her brother was a few years ago and the dog and her brother were together, but not all the time, but they were together on the beach. And that was really a big message for that client. So, yeah, they kind of can be in several places at once and moving around. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned the higher vibration, where you feel like animals are of a higher vibration, and I hear that all the time.
Yes.
And I just wanted to bring up that Dolores Cannon, I remember her saying that when a soul sort of comes to earth and in all of their learning process, a soul goes into all the elements and then into plants and into animals to learn instinct and to learn how to live in a tribe sort of setting, like with a hive or whatever. And so we learn all these instincts throughout our experiences as lives. And then she said that then once they're ready, they will go into a pet to learn the human ways and to kind of learn living in a home, you know, with 4 walls and so on. So I thought it was interesting that she said that. And in that case, you know, it's kind of evident that animals would have a higher vibration because they haven't experienced all the stuff that we do as humans, all the emotional stuff, and you know, all the jealousy and all these, you know, crazy emotions that we come to experience, which is what we have human lives for. So yeah, I find it interesting and fascinating that we do see animals as having a higher vibration than us.
Yeah, I find it interesting as well. And obviously domesticated animals are affected by humans. So that is why someone like me or another animal communicator or healer, that's why generally they do need more assistance, because they've been affected in a sense. But if you're talking about wild animals, and they are less affected because they don't, from things, although we have whales and we have dolphins who are very advanced, like I believe they're very advanced souls, giving messages, because I know we had the ones that, and I don't know fully about it, but they beach themselves, and that's definitely a message for that's definitely a message for Earth, and they're trying to tell people, you know, about them, but they are not as affected as domestic animals. So because living with humans, animals in a domestic situation take on a lot of roles where they will offer healing to their owner to the detriment of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and they're amazing. Animals are amazing.
Yeah, they are. I think we need to appreciate that we have them here, like having animals on our planet. I think they're just so beautiful.
It's true, we do. And when I go for walk, or even like every client that I deal with, you know, it's dealing with the person, the human, and the animal. So, you know, it's kind of like a three-way. And that sometimes I will work with more than one animal in a session, depending. Like I've worked on one where I worked with 4 cats in a home. So that was very interesting. But every animal is beautiful, and that's what I always think. I'm so lucky because they're all so cute and beautiful, and everyone is unique. And it's kind of a lesson, I guess, for humans, because sometimes we all want to be the same, but you know, no animal is the same. Like they all have their own personality, just like a human. So we are so blessed. I sometimes think, how could they be even real? They're so cute, every animal. Yeah.
Yeah, so cute. So how long do your sessions go usually, or what would you offer, something like a first up?
Okay. I have different options, and I guess that's for people to even just have an experience and see how they feel with an animal communicator, because obviously it's like anyone, you have to have a connection, I guess, and everyone is different. So I have a 40, like a one question, which is like $40, just one question, which doesn't have a length of time. It's just by email. So it would be a simple question though. And then I have sessions where like a telephone will be half an hour or 45 minutes. Sometimes if it needs to go over, because sometimes they do, or I would just do another session, like depending on the situation. Some things can be resolved in one session. But like that one with the 4 cats, that was huge. That like took me a couple of weeks, and that was actually through email, but still I had to go back to the client, because sometimes I have to get more answers or check with them about things, or
So
you know,
were these cats still alive, or had they passed?
oh yes, no, they were all alive. So they were her 4 furry children, and she just had a lot of issues with them, like hierarchy and fitting in, and it's just like children and sibling rivalry in a lot of ways, like it really is. And so I've worked with her several times actually, And yeah, and I've done healing. She was just saying, actually, yeah, I just did a healing session and how much that helped one of her cats, and how much she's changed from having, we have communicated with like her as well. So and some animals might, because, you know, when I greet them, and I always ask for permission to speak to them, it's not a psychic reading like with a human, it is communication. So I always ask them, I don't ever just approach them without their permission and their owner's permission, obviously. And sometimes it will, not always, but there have been sometimes where the animal may need me to, depends on their situation and the trauma they've experienced. And I have a soft energy, so I find most animals I don't have that, but you may need to sort of greet them a few times before they may open up to you. And so sometimes it will be over a few days. So every case is individual, really. But with the telephone and that, it would be, or Skype, it would definitely be that time frame. And then, yeah, we would just, you know, if we didn't get everything resolved, we would go over maybe a little bit, or I would just, we'll book another session if they felt they needed to.
Yeah, okay. So if there's a behavioural problem with a pet, you can sort that out. Like we've got a new puppy. Because we were all so busy
Was
when...
that your cat I could hear before?
Yeah, that's
too?
my kitty, my cat. Yeah, he's
Thought so.
gone outside. He's such a sweetie, but we keep him inside because he's not very good outside. His instincts take over, so
Okay.
not very good. But yeah, this new puppy we got, he somehow, I feel like he just thinks that the toilet is inside. So he just, like, he'll be outside and we let him in and he goes straight away. So is that something you do as well? Like, can you, like, and would you like talk to him, or would you do something to help him know that toilet's outside?
Yeah, I definitely have helped. I know I helped a lady with a cat that was having issues with that, and I just would ask them. So generally how a session with me would work is, you know, whatever the issue is, the client would tell me, and then they give me their set of questions that they have, just so that they get the answers that they want, because obviously you don't want to, you know, that's the whole idea, so they get a solution. So yes, and that may be something with that behavioural and a puppy, because, you know, it's like kittens, they're babies. So sometimes, you know, it's a longer term thing where, you know, it's routine and like, yeah, having to repeat to them. So yes, that is something where I would say, okay, I would ask him why, or, you know, you would tell me say the question, whatever your question is.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I ask him those questions to get the answers, and then we kind of come up with, you know, solutions. And that's what I really like as well. It's not just transferring the information, but it'll be like trying to find a solution. And for things like that, it may not be just one session, because, and then there'll be also work for the owner. Like everyone will have a job then, generally. The animal will have something that they need to change or, you know, do slightly, and the same as the owner. Yeah, and then we work together. So it's like working as a team, which I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So do you communicate? So you communicate to the pet as well, so you can communicate, like...
Yes, both ways.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So so I talk to them. It's very much like you and I speaking now. Yeah, I will ask a question and they will answer me. And that can be in all senses. So it is a two-way. Yeah. It's not me just reading them psychically. I would always say, and I do get information like that coming through, obviously, but I'm always clear that that's if they're telling me something, then that will be, they're telling me that. And if it's something that I'm getting like because I am a medium as well. So some other information does come through, but I'm always clear in saying where the information's coming from so the person knows. Yeah. So they will tell me information.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's very cool.
I might try it with him, because I know that when we got him, we were all super busy and, you know, we were all off to work. So we kind of left him, and then I didn't have the time to train him properly and take him outside every so often like I did with our.
How old is he?
He must be about 4 months.
Okay, yeah, so he's only young still.
He's only little.
Okay, yeah. But it is, yeah, it's a commitment. And I think it's with animals, sometimes we don't, or everyone, like I have a cat, I have a rescue cat, and the training that I have done with him, and that's really a lot of the time it is commitment with training and doing it over and over so that they learn. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's amazing. Yeah, the difference it can make in making people's lives and their lives easier, because most animals will say they want to make their owner happy. Like that's one of the main things. They don't want to make them unhappy. So yeah, it's very cute. And sometimes they just maybe don't know how, or they don't realize that, because I will even say to an animal sometimes, I'll explain to them how it's impacting on their owner. They may not fully understand that either. Yeah.
So cute. I want to make you happy.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Yeah. You said, so we got interrupted before because you said that you put a healing track on for your kitties. What is that? Is that something you do and have?
Oh, okay. Well, it's actually like it's not something I do myself, as it's not what I've done. I just like to put things on because there are certain things that I like to teach him to help him. So I give him tools, and that's what I do with my sessions as well. I will give, just like a person, if they are going somewhere and want help, then we give them tools to get through that. And that's what I will do in session too, generally. Yeah. So give them some tools or help them, because I've just moved not long ago. So yeah. And it was also keeping him calm. Like, yeah, it keeps him calm. I do Reiki healing on him. I do everything as well.
Yeah, okay.
He's not quite 2, and he's very active. As you've seen before with the tree.
Oh, that was shaking it around.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, how do you go at zoos? What do you think of zoos? And do you like can you switch yourself off and not pick up on stuff?
It's very interesting, because we know today, like, and I myself and most people probably have, I've visited SeaWorld years ago thinking that it's a great place to go to, or probably shouldn't mention names, but anyway. And with regards to zoos, so it can be very controversial in a sense as well, because I've communicated with a dugong who was in she obviously domesticated in some sense, and she couldn't be released into the wild. Now she was in an aquarium. So, okay, I don't agree that animals should be bred for domestic purposes and trained, and not in an environment that is big enough for them. But for her, she couldn't be released into the wild. So without that aquarium, she wouldn't be alive. So I think we have to also find a balance for animals that can't be in the wild. Then there is a place for them. Also for research and with zoos that are doing the right thing. Yeah. And I think I am always open to, even with humans, being an empath, I absorb a lot of other energies, but I have to learn, which has been doing it professionally, I can't really switch off, but you learn to have your tools so that you're not always doing it. But I do hear, even when I'm walking, you know, I'll be walking and there will always be dogs walking past me. And sometimes I hear, you know, what they're saying. And there's one particular thing that they don't like, people talking on their mobile phones and not being, and I actually did a post on my social media about that because I thought it was really important, because we're not connecting with our animal. We're just like so sidetracked by technology, and animals really want us to be present with them. So in that context, yeah, but I wouldn't just go up and tell somebody that, because it's like,
it's like, get off your phone, your dog doesn't like you being on the phone.
yeah, that's right. Unless they asked me, it's just about personal boundaries, isn't it? I mean, it's the same as in, you don't just go up to somebody and just start telling them. So the same, even with energy work, I'm very conscious of that. And I do work to a code of ethics. So I'm always, but yeah, it's like, if I can teach people as a whole that if we can step back from technology, and the animals are really wanting that. Yeah, so every animal has, with regards to zoos or sanctuaries or places like that, you know, for animals that need to be there, like, there is a place for them. Yeah.
I also think they have I mean, I don't believe that things happen just by random chance. So I feel like those souls on a contract level, on a higher level, agreed to be those animals where we can go and see them and appreciate them. And, you know, unfortunately being locked up, but, you know, that we get to see them.
Yeah, I think, and I agree. And I think as a society, we're learning to look after them better as well, like thinking more about their needs. But yeah, they're definitely, their souls ask for that. And animals, you know, on a collective, would just want to be treated.
Well, there
Hey,
he is. He's never done that before. He's only
thank
doing it
you.
for
Oh, thank you. That's why when he was speaking for us, I was like, oh, yeah, can hear him. Hello, handsome.
Hello. It's Archie.
Archie. Hi, Archie. He's so big.
You reckon? Everyone
Yeah,
says he's big. I don't think he's that
yeah,
big.
he looks big. And not in a bad, he's just, yeah, he's beautiful. Yeah, so on a collective, yeah, I agree. And we need them, like, it's not harming them. That's the most important thing that I don't agree with, like harming them and for just the purposes of mistreating them. But yeah, other than that, animals are here. I mean, there's many things, like we could go down the path of, you know, eating them, and that's very questionable as well. But like, they do ask that, a lot of them wouldn't have a life if we weren't eating animals either. So I, you know, don't ever judge anyone on that either. It's what everyone wants to do.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think to ask you about that if you're vegetarian. I want you
Yeah.
to answer, but yeah.
No, I mean, and I'm quite open about that, because, you know, and I think anyone that has done healing or more advanced, if they're going to sort of, you know, we're open-minded and need to be accepting of everything. So I don't stipulate that on any. I did grow up eating meat. It wasn't something that I probably or always loved, but I primarily don't eat meat. It's for health reasons as well. I just don't find that it. I just find I feel healthier without it. But it's not where I eat seafood, and I just listen to my body really about what it needs. And yeah, as I said, like with regards to animals, they wouldn't have, if we didn't eat them. It's about doing it in the correct way. It's about, you know, doing it humanely and respectfully. And that's a big thing that we do need to change in society, which I hope can have some influence on over time. It's about treating them as a sacred and not wasting and consuming too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not vegetarian. Yeah. Well, I'm a pescatarian. If you want to say, a pescatarian is someone that still eats seafood. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a vegetarian diet is for everyone, and I think that I mean, I would like to think that I can only, or that I only need and only want vegetables, but Yeah, I think that some people need, I've heard people say they need that energy off that food, off that meat. And yeah, some people get quite sick not having it. So I'm the same. I'm like, just do whatever you've got to do. And if the time comes, you know, but I think that as a society, we probably will go that way, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's more changing. I mean, yeah, I just really, you know, just listen to my body really, and that's what I do. But yeah, the animals wouldn't have as many experiences here if we didn't eat them.
Paused. I don't know if that was recording then. That was weird.
Oh, really?
Oh, better have been. I think it does anyway, I'm hoping.
I hope so.
Yeah. But do you know what I want to say before we finish up?
Yes.
There's also been people regressed where they have gone to a life where they had a dragon as a pet.
Oh, yes.
You love that.
I do, because I do believe in dragons. I believe in unicorns. I do, and I love that you've even said that, because it's like, there you go, see, they did exist.
Yeah.
And I know I've listened to a lot of different things over time, and then you take your own perspective on that. But I know I've heard like people say that, yeah, animals say we say animals have become extinct, but sometimes it's for their own protection. So they're really not, they just can't be. I love that. That's so interesting. They've taken them back and they've had dragons. Well, I'm one of those, I think. I'm sure I've had a dragon as a pet in a previous life, because I love them.
Yeah. And the girl was little, and she would run away from like the family. She'd sneak out and go hang out with her dragon, and mum's like, get back here, you got stuff to do. So she would race off. And I think there was something, if I remember correctly, there was something about the mum saying, don't fly with him yet.
That is cool. And how do you feel about that, when that like well, the first time that happened to you or whatever? Because I mean, yeah, how did you feel about that?
Oh, I just thought that was amazing, mate. Yeah, it's just, I feel like everything that we've ever dreamt up in mythology, or things that we can dream up in our imagination, has happened. Like,
Yeah,
that's what I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fairies, and you know, and it's kind of going off a little bit you know, in one, but I do believe in that, and like, you know, that we have genetics relating back to that. So I very much, because I love ocean, because now I live right near the water, so I do love trees and everything as well. But so the water really helps me a lot as well. So like, I love being near the ocean, so I really connect with that. But going back to our ancestry or genetics on a spiritual level or soul level, I really relate to fairies. So yeah, that's like a whole nother thing too. But yeah, I was a fairy and I had a dragon. I like to think about that.
That's so cool. Well, people are saying now that all the dragon fossils, sorry, the dinosaur fossils were actually dragons. That's what people are saying now. I don't know how I feel about that, because I mean, they don't have wings, but anyway, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? We haven't uncovered everything, have we, really? But that's really interesting. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So when you take someone back with that, will they tell you the year, or you will just see, like, does that happen sometimes where you'll know the year that they've gone back in, like for the dragon, for instance, or you just know the scenery? So
Sometimes
you
it's a different planet.
Yep.
So when people go back, they'll go to where they had a life on a different planet and they had a particular job. Sometimes their job is to look after a structure, or it's kind of showing them the way of life that they had there, or the ability that they had there, because it's so vastly different. There would be no point in having other planets like Earth. I mean, you know, they've got to be.
That's right.
So, but when I regress people, they kind of, I mean, I regressed someone not long ago, and she went to being an Aboriginal elder, and she was told it's happening simultaneously, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and that's really, yeah, and that it is hard to, because that's when I think about time, and it's taken me a long time to think about, like, and it's a lot, isn't it? It's like, oh, that's massive.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. And I've had that with animals where, you know, on a soul, they're on some other planet, like in a distant star system doing something on a planet, but they're not necessarily in an animal form on a soul level, if that makes sense, even, like, yeah, so where they're off doing things as well. So it's really cool. So it's kind of similar to how when the people are doing that, and I've had animals doing that too. So, but
Yeah.
then they don't really look like it's not like they don't show me that they really look like an animal. It's just not really seeing what they look like. It's just knowing what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because we still have jobs. There's still always things that need to be done, or that there's still a purpose, even if you're
Exactly. And I love that. And I think for people to know that as well, about even their animals, that they don't all just go off, and depends what, even for them, they're off doing really important jobs. Yeah, it's so cute. I love it.
yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I think I've run out of questions now. So was there
I was
any?
about to say, was there anything? Yeah, I was about to say to you, is there anything else that that
No, not really. I think we covered everything that I had, everything that I could think of. Yeah.
that's
So
good.
very, very fascinating.
Yeah, it's always very interesting. I love talking about it and what I do, and learning about what you do as well.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Kelly. It was lovely to meet you finally after such a long process to get this happening.
I know, it's lovely to meet you too, and thank you. I appreciate today and talking with you, and learning about what you do as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. All
And
right.
meeting Archie, of course.
Yeah, Archie, he doesn't usually come and sit on me when I do this, so that was,
There you go. See?
he loves you. See, that's testament.
Yeah. Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Kelly, and I'll put all your contacts up and everything. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me.
Okay. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.